I need to first be able to make sure that my own house is in order, because if it's not, the service and the giving I give is going to be terrible. Can I ask you a question? There's no wrong answers, but there's one rule. You have to be completely honest. Alright? Cool. How much do you take care of yourself? Like from your outermost being, from your outermost flesh to the deepest parts of your soul, how much of that is being cared for? Now, I gotta be honest, this is something that challenges me as well, as I've struggled with it my entire life, and at times I still do. Hell, even writing this intro made my stomach sink a little bit, because I know how much work I still need in this area of my life. I told you, I love to serve, and the entirety of what I'm building by God's grace is related to serving in some capacity. And though I'm still learning how to better take care of myself, as things around me has gotten a little bit more demanding with life and business and everything else, I'm just gonna share a few things with you that I've learned thus far that has made me go so much farther in terms of my mental and spiritual health, along with some new things I'm currently implementing as we speak. Now, starting off, I think one of the biggest things we need to be able to understand is why we even struggle to take care of ourselves. And honestly, I think one of the biggest reasons is because we don't have a working knowledge that in order to serve, we need to be able to take care of ourselves. In order to give, we need to be able to take in. In order to pour out, we need to be able to take in a pour in from God in rest and self-care. Psalm 23:5 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows." Right? So we need to understand that we get our cup filled from God. And in order to serve to others, right, that overflow, that's what we're giving to others. In order to even have that, we need to be able to have our cup fill ourselves. God is the one who fills our cup, right? So in order to give to others, in order to serve to others, in order to fulfill the heart of service that God has given us, we need to be able to understand that our cup needs to first be filled, because that overflow is what other people are getting. And honestly, this is something that has helped me to better take care of myself, because I've learned that in order to do the things that God has called me to do, in order to serve the way God has called me to serve and give the way God has called me to give, I need to first be able to make sure that my own house is in order, because if it's not, the service and the giving I give is going to be terrible. It's not going to be a reflection of Christ's love. It's just going to be the bare minimum, honestly. And in my experience, that can even lead to some resentment, which can be a whole other video. But truly, I know with me, and I have a feeling that this is a common thing with others as well, that one of the major things that's holding us back from having that working knowledge to actually implementing it is us not giving ourselves permission to even take care of ourselves. One of the most famous chapters in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 13, often read at weddings, right? Often used in order to help us understand how we ought to love each other and how we ought to love others and love our neighbor, right? However, something I don't see as often, and I know this is something I recently had to check with myself, is that do I love myself to that same standard of what is described as love? At verse 4, it says, "Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things." Now, with that definition in mind, do you love yourself? Can you look at each one of those things and say, yeah, I do that to myself as well, right? I show myself that kindness. I show myself that patience. I show myself that forgiveness. Because if you don't, you're not fulfilling the full definition of what love is. And we ought to love ourselves, right? Because if we're going to love our neighbor as ourselves, we need to be able to love ourselves. If we're going to care for our neighbor, we need to be able to care for ourselves. And this isn't an effort to try to puff ourselves up, right? But this is an effort to align ourselves with the word of God. Because like I said, if we're going to love our neighbor as ourselves, we need to be able to fully love ourselves. But the first thing you need to be able to do to even engage with the idea of self-care is to be able to give yourself permission to do it. Because what we often don't realize is that we don't give ourselves permission to step forward into self-care. We don't give ourselves permission to do certain things because we have an abundance of excuses, an abundance of reasons, some of which can be valid, like money, resources, time, other dependence people have on us. Those are all valid reasons. However, at the end of the day, self-care is not just something nice to do, but something that's a necessity. Because honestly speaking, in the past, I had to acknowledge that I ought to have taken care of myself better. I had to acknowledge that it wasn't healthy to do the certain things I was doing in order to pour out without ever getting time to pour in. However, the shift occurred once I gave myself that permission to even do it. The fact of the matter is that things are always going to come up. Things are always going to pop up, and it's always going to be some kind of frustrating thing, right? But we need to have faith in God, have enough faith in God's power and God's sovereignty that if we step away and do the thing that He called us to do, rest, if we step away and take care of ourselves, everything will still be fine. However, with that in mind, I cannot emphasize how important it is that with self-care, whatever self-care you decide to implement, you also have some consistency. One of my major downfalls when it came to self-care, or my lack thereof, was that I was really treating my self-care as more triage. And this is something God revealed to me when I was talking to Him about how burnt out I was, how tired I was. And the reason behind that was because I wasn't treating myself well every single day. I only was implementing the things I knew to do every single day when things got bad. And let me tell you, friends, as someone who has done that time and time again, that leads to absolutely nothing except just being burnt out and just fixing it really quickly. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy or found it helpful in any way, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more Christian mental health discussions and conversations like this. I'm super excited on the direction that this channel is going and the things I have planned for the future. And down below in the comments, let me know one area of your life that you feel like you can add in some self-care this week. In a pinned comment, I'll have my answer as well. I pray that this message was encouraging to you. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.